name is Gina. I'm the imaging specialist for the Sons of the American Revolution National Headquarters here in Louisville, Kentucky. This Black History Month, I would like to tell you the story of Caesar, an enslaved man who in 1779 became an artificer in Captain Robert George's artillery company as part of George Rogers Clark's Illinois Regiment. Caesar was born into slavery on a plantation owned by William Robertson in Chesterfield County, Virginia in the late 1750s. After the death of William Robertson in 1774, William's son James inherited Caesar. After inheriting Caesar, James relocated to the Natchez district in British West Florida, taking Caesar with him. In 1778, Caesar's life took a drastic turn when Captain James Willing and his volunteer company of Marines launched their infamous raid against the British allied inhabitants of the Natchez district and other settlements along the Mississippi River. James Robertson decided to join Captain Willing and his men, again taking Caesar with him. In 1779, Captain James Willing resigned and transferred his command to Lieutenant Robert George. Robert George was then promoted to captain in George Rogers Clark's Illinois Regiment. Captain Robert George took the remainder of Captain Willing's men and formed an artillery company. In this company, James Robertson was given the rank of lieutenant and Caesar was made an artificer being a skilled craftsman. Did you know that Caesar has a strong tie to Louisville? Follow me as we walk in the footsteps of Caesar, just one block from the SAR library, where I'll tell you more about Caesar's life and his Louisville connection. Caesar's role as an artificer was vital to George Rogers Clark's Illinois Regiment. As an artificer, Caesar helped build and repair forts, houses, boats, and military equipment. Even though Caesar was still James Robertson's slave, he was considered an enlisted man and issued his own rifle under Captain Robert George. During his service in the American Revolutionary War, Caesar was stationed at Fort Clark in Kaskaskia, Illinois, Fort Jefferson in modern-day Ballard County, Kentucky, and Fort Nelson in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm currently standing on the former grounds of Fort Nelson. Built in 1781 by Richard Chenoweth and his men, Fort Nelson spanned about 1 acre and was complete with a moat. With the ability to endure attacks, Fort Nelson rivaled the strength of Fort Pitt. So what led to Caesar being stationed at Fort Nelson? From 1780 to 1781, Caesar and Captain Robert George's company of artillery were stationed at Fort Jefferson, a fort he helped build. But due to several attacks from indigenous tribes and a lack of food and supplies, Fort Jefferson was ultimately abandoned. In July of 1781, Caesar and Captain Robert George's artillery company were posted at Fort Nelson. While Lieutenant James Robertson was serving on detached duty, Caesar remained at Fort Nelson from 1781 to February of 1783. Caesar never gained his freedom after his service in the American Revolutionary War, nor after the death of Lieutenant James Robertson. Caesar was first bought and then sold and later inherited over a span of about 24 years. Caesar died in Lexington, Kentucky on the Beard family farm in 1836, where he was last enslaved. Thank you so much for joining me in honoring Caesar's memory. When visiting Louisville, be sure to check out Fort Nelson Park on the banks of the Ohio River and just 1 block from the SAR library.